Hey folks, I'm Chuck Black, and we are talking about how not to become a good programmer. And today's topic is don't use an IDE. And by that I mean, if you want to be a good programmer, you should be using an IDE. Now, before we get too far, I want to say this to those of you who are saying, I don't want to use an IDE, I use VI, I use Emacs, etc., etc., etc. I don't want to get in an argument with you, so you can just stop listening if you want. I myself grew up writing software pre-VI and pre-Emacs. So I have learned the hard way the values and non-values of writing software in something that isn't as nice as an integrated development environment, such as PyCharm. So what I want to do is articulate some of the reasons why using an IDE is a good idea. Reason number one, look at how cool it looks. Do you see? It color codes everything for you because your IDE will understand the syntax of the language that you are using. If you're using Python, then you probably will want to be using something like PyCharm. And PyCharm has a very good understanding of Python syntax. Not only that, it has an understanding of Python do's and don'ts in terms of recommendations. So it color codes things for you. Keywords you can see are in this orangey color. Things that are variables tend to be in white. Strings tend to be in green. These reserved words that are functions for creating a dictionary, statements like print, tend to be in this purpley color, etc., etc. It just helps you keep track of everything and know when you might be making a mistake, and so the color coding is quite nice. Reason number two, as I mentioned before, PyCharm is aware of syntax, and so it knows what things such as keywords, when you're passing in a keyword, might be. So it's aware of the fact that it is giving them a special designation of making them red in the situations here where I'm calling into a function, and it highlights those for me. So I know very clearly what I'm doing is passing in a keyword. Now, if I had done something stupid like this and just said num devices, not only does it know about keywords, but it also knows about syntax and what has been defined and what hasn't. In this situation, you can see I've not defined num devices. That's not what I meant to do. It's telling me it's an unresolved reference. If it was supposed to be a variable, I would have needed to define it. But that's not what I wanted. What I wanted to do was something like this. If I use the improper syntax and I use something like a colon or something here, then it also will be aware of that fact that that is an error and it doesn't know what the heck to do with that. So you become aware of mistakes that you've made before you try to run your program. So it's very helpful, and it will cut down on the time that you waste by giving you helpful hints such as this. Another thing that's useful is it will help you if you have made an inadvertent error, something that's not syntactically incorrect, but might be incorrect when you attempt to run it. For example, I had this bug just before I did my latest 52 weeks of Python in 10-minute sessions, and that is this. I had my print statement here that looked basically like this. And what ended up happening was I noticed, oh, this is all highlighted. This is PyCharm telling me, hey, there might be a problem here that you're not aware of. And actually, if I hover over it, then it's going to tell me that the name dict search time can be undefined. And when I look back up here, I can see that if I happen to have typed in an incorrect IP address, then it's possible for me to come down into this code. Here I did the if IP define is within it, and if it's not within it, then I could be trying to use it when I hadn't defined it, and that will of course cause an error. Another thing that you might notice is this. It's helpfully here telling me, hey, you've got your indentation incorrect. So I'll be doing a favor to people that come after me by fixing this and having the indentation correct. Another thing that's extremely useful, of course, it's an integrated development environment. That means not only is it showing me the code that I'm writing, but it's also showing me the entire directory in which things are living. Another thing that's useful for me in terms of the integratedness is that not only can I write software, but I can run software. So if I want to just run this application, all I need to do, I can do it a number of ways. I can right click here and I can run it. I can go up here as long as it's in the drop down and I can run it. It's even helpful enough to know that, hey, if I have multiple pieces of code in here, sometimes you will want to run individual ones, like if you're doing unit tests and stuff. So I can run just this application, just this piece of code that begins right here in this code block. Probably more useful is the fact that I can do debugging. So not only can I run it and see what the result is, but I can debug it. So here I'm saying I want to debug it, and it's going to get everything set up for me. And it has stopped here. Let me make this a little bit easier for us to read. It has stopped right there, and I can see, okay, well, I'm right at this location. There's nothing really interesting going on here. You can look at my debug discussion later on, but I'm not going to go through all the details. But if I just want to step through and execute one line of code, then I can do that. Look at this. I can look at all of my devices. Whoa, look at that list of devices. This would go on and on and on. You can see it says there's 64,000 more of those things that I could look at if I wanted to. If I have any special variables, things such as name, what's the name of this? There's other internal things. There's my create devices, which is a function. There's tabulate, which is also a function. And there's time, which is a module that I can reference. So all of this stuff, as I step through this, if I'm not sure what I'm doing right here, then I can step through and go through my for loop. Let me get rid of special variables here. And I'm going through my for loop, and I can see devices dict. Do you see that it used to be 0 items? Now there's 1 item. Now I'm going to go through it again, and now you see there's 2 items. Really, really helpful. I don't know why I wouldn't want to be doing this if I have the opportunity to do so, which I have because of the IDE. So I've just given you a few reasons to use an IDE. They're extremely useful. They print stuff up here for you, so I can just look at it right here and see what the values are. Really, really helpful. So I would say use a debugger if you want to become anything, any type of software developer at all. If you want to graduate from the little tiny world of writing 9-line pieces of code into writing real software, you're going to want to use an IDE